in Colorado by going to mycoloradojourney.com. It's a statewide implementation here in the state. And we also provide coaching tools for workforce programs and employers for the development of soft skills, professional skills.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Next, Whitney Bertram. She's lead talent acquisition with Healthgrades. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Healthgrades?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Like you mentioned, I'm Whitney Bertram from Healthgrades. If you're not familiar, Healthgrades is a place, we're a health tech company based here in Denver. We do have offices in 8 other states at this point, but we really focus on helping providers make connections with patients and vice versa. So you can go to our website, healthgrades.com, to see reviews on your doctor, schedule appointments, and just in general get more connected to them. We also partner with over 1,500 health systems in the country to help them connect with potential patients as well. Like Michael mentioned, I'm the lead talent acquisition partner there. I focus on recruitment, culture, engagement, compensation, a little bit of everything.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Chris Magyar. He's the Chief Apprenticeship Officer with Techtonic Group.
Thanks, Michael. Again, Chris Magyar with Techtonic. Techtonic is a custom software development shop located in Boulder, Colorado. So we write custom software for our clients. And what makes us a bit unique in this space is that we have a Department of Labor registered software developer apprenticeship program where we teach individuals, regardless of background experience, how to become a software developer through the beauty of apprenticeship. So myself, I head up the group, and I'm responsible for the overall apprenticeship program. And also I'm co-chair of Techtonic Boulder.
Wonderful, thanks, Chris. And then we have Corine Waldau. She's Economic Development Director for the Boulder Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, thank you. So the Boulder Chamber is actually the convener for the Tech Talent Boulder Broomfield. We also convene quite a few other sector partnerships, including a healthcare one, a professional services, and participate in some others. So we have a cross-industry focus, and in the last couple weeks, working lots of hours to help companies navigate federal and state legislation, understanding rules and orders and changes, and really kind of identifying some of the economic impacts of the crisis. So we're busy trying to keep Main Street alive. In some cases is the term, but we do economic development. We convene sector partnerships. We're also an intermediary for apprenticeships ourselves, and also are the local career-wise intermediary. So there's a lot going on in that space.
Great, thanks so much, everybody. We have some great tech leaders here to talk through this COVID-19 situation. So we're going to get right into the questions. So the first question is, how has COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders affected your business? Who wants to go first?
I can start, Mike. Yeah, it's impacted us in a couple of different ways. Major ways, I should say. We were scheduled to start a new apprenticeship cohort in Boulder on April 20th. So of course, stay at home stops us from launching that cohort of 20 apprentices. We're also scheduled to launch a training class in El Paso, Texas, that was sponsored by Microsoft Techtonic in the state of Texas, where we were going to be training 15 spouses of active military personnel on software development. So that has been the greatest impact, is really the delaying of those two cohorts. At the same time, being a custom software shop, writing software for our clients, we've had some delays in project starts, and also in terms of creating talent for our clients on a contract to hire basis. Some of those contract to hire opportunities have also been delayed, as not only everybody figures out what the impact is going to be to their business, but how to move forward. So, with the delays we've seen, and also networking with our executive team in the industry, everyone's seeing a lot of the same things. So right now it's a wait and see as this pandemic moves to the next stage. But we think there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand because so many things have been delayed when the ice jam breaks around COVID-19.
Yeah,
Chris.
with Chris as well. We've certainly seen our business affected being in the healthcare industry. A lot of things have been put on pause that we were, working with our clients on. So we're really trying to pivot and transition ways that we're helping hospitals and doctors. So we've definitely seen upticks in parts of our business and slowing down in other parts. And just in general, from just a working together standpoint with our employees, most of us have been working from home for over close to a month now at this point. And so really just trying to adjust the way that we communicate with each other, and just pivoting during this time, trying to come up with new solutions to help our clients. So while it's definitely affected us, I think it's brought a lot of good opportunity for us to come up with new ideas and collaborate more.
At Pairin, it's been quite a mixed bag. We were in the middle of our final weeks of closing out a funding round, a Series A round, and our lead investor was an online college that is a for-profit, and their primary source of revenue was for healthcare professionals getting certifications, but those folks aren't going to school right now. They're working 2 and 3 shifts in a row. And so we had to switch lead investors to another investor. That was delayed. We initially, because of the uncertainty of it, we stopped all hiring related to that. And then the mixed bag part of it is that because of the nature of our platform, helping people get connected to resources and jobs, existing customers like the state of Virginia, state of Colorado, and others are saying, what can we do to accelerate our roadmap? And so we've got some customers that are going away or postponing, and investors, and then we have other investors that are interested. And for us, it's kind of leveling out, and hopefully will actually be a net positive for us over the next 6 months or even 2 years. We find ourselves very fortunate right now.
And then, this is Corine from the Boulder Chamber. We've seen a cross bag of companies, delaying funding, delaying purchases and acquisition. They are readjusting their entire work style for work from home. In some cases, their work has actually decreased, so they've had to have layoffs or furloughs. We've noticed some shifts in the hiring, and the fact that they're freezing all hiring as well, and in this time of uncertainty. And one thing we noticed was there was a lot of uncertainty about stay-at-home orders, which we spent many hours trying, because you had the Denver one, and then in Boulder you had Boulder, then Broomfield, and then you had Colorado, and navigating that took a lot of time. Figuring out if you're an essential business, figuring out, less so in the tech industry, but figuring out what you can and can't do was a piece that's been tough for a lot of companies.
Thank you. So my next question here flows right off what Corine was just saying. So, are your staff working from home right now? And if so, how are you managing that transition? Is that something that you guys had in place before, or is that a new switch for your company?
Well, I'll speak for Pairin, kick it off. As a software company, most of our software developers, our company allows anyone to work, in the place that is most convenient for them, but we truly do enjoy being in the office. Our developers very often will work from home, 1 or 2 days a week, and now everybody's working from home. We find that we're actually fairly efficient at it. I'll tell you in a month how much productivity has changed because of this. Myself, I find that I'm on between 12 and 13 Zoom meetings a day. And I didn't have 12 to 13 meetings before. So I'm trying to figure out exactly why the volume of my meetings has increased dramatically. We've had to be very intentional with communication with our team. We set up a virtual lunch that is a Zoom that is open every day from 12 to 1, and anybody can just drop in and socialize and check on everybody or drop out. There's no obligation to be on it. And we find that there's probably a third of our company that's on it every day just because they need that social interaction.
Yeah, and we found, our company has been primarily work in the office, because of our apprenticeship, mentoring apprentices, project teams being together. So we've been working at home now for about 3 weeks. And from a technology perspective, it's been rather smooth. Everybody's set up, but the teams have had to adjust to virtual stand-ups, using different tools. Like Michael said, we've done some virtual lunches to try to get people together to bond. Not everybody had all their equipment at home. So the first week we allowed people to come to the office, and if they didn't have monitors at home for their laptops, to pick up their equipment from the office. But for the most part, we shut down the office about 3 weeks ago, and it's gone very smoothly. In terms of our sales efforts, like Michael said, he didn't have 12 or 13 meetings a day before, and for our sales team reaching out to prospects, it's been very smooth for our salespeople to get meetings with potential clients because everybody's sitting at home. So we've adjusted rather smoothly, and it'll be interesting to see how our businesses and other businesses change, seeing how smooth the work from home is or isn't for the specific corporation.
Yeah, I'll mimic Chris and Mike. It's definitely has seemed like a pretty smooth transition for us. We did allow our employees, we had a flexible work from home policy already in place. However, with everyone working from home, that's certainly adjusted. One of the things that I thought was really key in making the transition seem smooth for us is that we created a work from home toolkit for employees. So it's a list of resources that they can use, whether that be internal or external, that really gave them access to new technologies, resources in terms of mindfulness and just different things like that. So I find myself looking at it, once a day, sometimes twice a day. And so that's been just something that I thought was kind of really creative and something that helped our employees.
And I'm going to speak to tech industry, but I work cross industries. So this particular challenge has been harder for some other industries than tech. You guys are, in the name, tech savvy with tools like Slack and Microsoft Teams and Hangouts and using Zoom and WebEx, but it's been a transition for some companies that primarily had their staff in-house. The increase in meetings. I've heard people say, I'm going to have a visceral reaction if you mention the term Zoom when this is all over, because we are on camera a lot. The other thing that I've heard is the fear of productivity loss because we're working from home. And I know this might get to a later question, but how do you balance and expect productivity when all of this stuff is going on around us? So there's a difference between working from home and using the tech tools and working from home with COVID, with stay at home, with home education. And how do you balance that? And it may be a change it may be an increase in flexibility or shift changes or just working with your manager. And I think what I've heard from every company is there's not too much communication. You need to stay communicated with your staff and your teams.
Just to build on that a little bit, we've been doing also lunch and learns. So our VP of engineering, who started just a little over a month ago, has been working remote and managing remote teams for years and years and years. And he did a lunch and learn for our team on how to really be efficient working from home. We have an IO psychologist on staff. He did a lunch and learn on the psychology of, related to what we're experiencing right now and how to handle self-care in this situation. We have a lot of clients. And as we started to do this, we started to get requests from a bunch of our clients, like their workforce programs or their businesses that are used to coaching their people face to face. And that's their whole business is developing people to be successful. And they had a lot of myths about how well they could do that online. And so we said, well, we had our coach trainer do a webinar of how can you effectively coach online when you're used to face-to-face. And it was called Heart to Heart from more than 6 feet apart. And within like 48 hours, we had over 200 people signed up for that thing. All the way from Australia, people were getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's just what we see is that there's just a lot of, from a management perspective and people developer perspective, there's a lot of fears and concerns that you just can't be effective doing this online. And we're doing our best to try to help people be effective as we help ourselves learn this as well.
Have you guys seen a need to either shift some of your management techniques as all your teams are now remote or mostly remote, or have you had to do any training like to help people get up to speed on going to this level of remote work, or has that been a fairly smooth transition?
Speaking personally, my team was already a remote team. So for us, like we're just kind of full steam ahead like we have been. We have scheduled additional meetings and things like that just to kind of catch up and kind of have a little bit of social time as well, just to kind of, because we understand that everyone is potentially isolated, right? They might not have all their family there and stuff like that. So we're trying to provide additional just social opportunities for people. But one of the other things, Healthgrades does we do a monthly manager series where we pick a topic and we train our managers on that topic. And we've shifted now to the topic next week is going to be, managing remotely. So we're definitely shifting our tactics and trying to provide those managers with support and education for those that are new to managing remotely.
I think for our teams, it's a shift because you're now only using technology. But I think if anything, from what I've heard from my peers over the development organization sales, it's actually heightened our communication because you can't walk down the hall and see somebody. We've adapted pretty well to the regularity of getting meeting schedules, even if it's just a little 10-minute check-in, because you don't see everybody constantly during the day by walking to the kitchen or walking to get coffee. And again, it's been pretty smooth. I think like we were talking earlier, some people are more comfortable with it than others, but for the most part, people have adapted rather quickly.
We've been very intentional in analyzing what does happen naturally in the walking around the office and bumping into people. What do we overhear? What do we see? What conversations start that are now not happening? And so we've had to be fairly introspective about that. And one of the things that we instituted because of that is we created the departmental report, and we found that, wow, I wish we had done this like 6 months or a year ago, where every department reports, this is what I've done this week. These are some wins. These are some challenges. This is what we're focusing on next week. Because those conversations happen naturally in the office, but they're not happening right now. And so, and we found that the communication and the understanding of what everybody is doing actually took a step forward from where it was before COVID, and we were working remotely. And so I wonder how many best practices will come out of this, just because we're forced to really think about communication instead of just let it happen.
So I want to ask, are there, and if you guys don't have any suggestions on this, you don't have to answer, but have you identified any particular communication or kind of workflow tools that have worked really well in this time that other companies might want to look into because they've been really effective for you?
Well, like we've all talked about, so we actually use Zoom. Some of us have been more familiar with Zoom than others. I would say now we've got a company full of Zoom experts. So I think, you know, starting the technology, getting the technology up and going is one thing, but having an effective meeting using Zoom is where I think we need more polish, right? Because again, like we can look at each other face to face, but conducting, a multi-person Zoom meeting, depending on the communication, sometimes the video or the audio can be delayed. Individuals, talking over one another. So I think we've learned to adapt to that. So, we couldn't live without Zoom. Also internally, like a lot of companies, we use Slack. So I would say from a technology perspective, Slack and Zoom have been invaluable. I don't know what we would have done without those tools. And again, I think our communication now, because we are all over communicating, because it's the only mechanism we have electronically, our communication that I've seen just anecdotally is getting very succinct and direct because we're getting so much of it. So thank God for Zoom and Slack.
Same for us, and I wouldn't be able to live without the Google app series because we collaborate online all the time. Inside meetings, every single meeting we have a set of a Google Doc with notes in that meeting, and everybody has that open at the same time while we're having the meeting. So we're having a complete communication, allowing people to write things down, record action items, etc. Stuff that would normally end up on a whiteboard is now on Google Docs, happening live in the meeting. But all the same tools Chris uses.
Yeah, and just one other thing too, Michael spurred the thought in my mind is with Zoom, you can record. So if somebody can't make a Zoom meeting, we'll record it and share it with an individual or a group later.
That's actually a good point. We record every one of our meetings now, just and so that we can invite other people to be involved in them.
We've also noticed that things we used to email, people or the conversations we would have in those 10 minutes of just walking by turned into email for some people. And so Microsoft Teams for that internal chatting, as opposed to making it an email train, Slack, people are using Zoom, but they're also using WebEx, Hangouts, Microsoft Teams, Google Duo for conversations. There are some companies that don't allow Zoom for security reasons. So we've tried to provide a menu of tools for conversations internal, but also external to companies.
Yeah, I'll mimic that. We've been using the same tools as well. Something that we've also started to do is just go back to the good old-fashioned agenda for a meeting to keep everyone on track. Everyone knows what to expect, and that just helps it. Everyone feels more prepared, and like Chris was talking, whenever you have people talking over each other and things like that, it helps keep everything a little bit more succinct. So that's been something that's old but trusty for us.
I'd say there's two other things that have become really key. We used them before, but they were kind of within a department, which is AHA and Miro. So we use Miro, Miro boards. Our product management team used those. Now everybody's using those. And because it's a great way to draw pictures and map things out. And then AHA, AHA, exclamation point. We use AHA boards quite a bit to manage like product roadmap, but now we're seeing other departments use the tools as well. Whereas before you just write it on a whiteboard and then you'd put it into another form. We find it's a little more efficient because we're just kind of doing it live now. And then when you're done, it's done rather than having to do it again in another form.
All right, I just wanted to say thanks for sending me your questions. We're going to do the questions at the end, so keep sending me those questions in the chat box because I think we got some good ones coming through. So I wanted to ask, what are the key ways you're maintaining a positive office culture? I think especially, at least for extroverts, it can be tricky to switch to working remotely entirely like this. So how are you maintaining a positive office culture? How are you keeping your staff morale high in this time?
I'll go first. So watching some companies do a lot of those, lunchtime, lunch and learns, even happy hours. Personally, we have a 4 o'clock happy hour every Friday. But one of the things I'm also noticing is companies asking us as a chamber, we're doing a lot of talking internally, but we're not talking to others or socializing with others. Are there ways for our staff to have opportunities to socialize with others still? And so, finding those resources where they can have a 2-company, happy hour or a learning session between companies to realize that we are, we're outside our own company and that there are other people out in the world besides just the sales team and some of those others. So that is one thing that it's been interesting to hear.
We've been doing some fun things, like the question of the day, and they're fun questions like, what is your favorite snack? Show us a picture of your, your work outfit, your slippers, your dog. One day we put out a quarantine name, which is how you're feeling at the time and the last thing you ate. So, we're doing a lot of fun things like that just to keep people engaged. And also, we're putting out, because, we're a sales-driven organization, just a status of what's going on in sales pipeline with our clients, since everybody, is involved and impacted by that. And that's been very helpful. And as was mentioned before, intercompany lunches and happy hours, and also our sales team are doing remote lunches and happy hours with their prospects, actually sending them and delivering them a lunch. So again, everybody's talked about getting very very smart and about how to leverage and deal with the situation at hand.
This is probably one of my favorite things that Healthgrades doing right now. We've certainly increased just communication a lot. We have a weekly newsletter called The Pulse that comes out, and there's fun tips and tricks and just status updates on the company in there. And then we are also having pretty regular town hall meetings as well, just to kind of get everyone together with our CEO and get updates there. But in terms of just the fun, positive energy, we have an engagement council that spreads across all 8 offices, and then we have local chapters as well. So those groups have been collaborating a lot more. And so we've created new Slack channels that allow people to, share ideas, kind of the fun things like Chris is talking about, little prompts and challenges and things like that. We started a trivia tournament, and so we've seen teams forming from different locations, different working teams, things like that. So we're going to be planning a Take Your Kid to Work Day later this month, which is something we've traditionally done in our offices. But we know everyone has kids at home right now, so you're essentially have your kids with you at work anyway. So we're going to be coming up with some activities and things like that that are going to be geared towards the children. We also have weekly meditations. So every Wednesday we lead a meditation, and if people want to join, they can. Happy hours, just anything to get people connected and to start talking. Another thing that's coming out of this is a cookbook. So we're coming up with kind of a quarantine hack cookbook. So what silly things have you found in your pantry or your fridge and are throwing together? So just anything that exudes creativity and connectiveness. We're really trying to go all in with it.
Yeah, we make a point of saying good morning to each other on Slack. And there's a whole bunch of GIFs that are hilarious. We've shared quarantini recipes. We've a bunch of those types of things. We do our happy hours, like I mentioned earlier. We do our lunches, but more often than not, I think the important thing is that we check in with each other. We check in at a deeper level as we can. We have a habit in our office inspired by one of our youngest employees years ago of doing walks together and meeting walks one-on-one, and people are still doing those now, and they're just making sure that they get out together, they enjoy the sun, but they're on their phones and they're not physically together at all. Yeah, so we're just checking in. I'm making sure I do one-on-ones with as many people as possible, whether they're my direct reports or not. We're a size of a company that I can still afford to do that.
We got a great question from the audience that I think fits right in with what you guys are talking about. So we had Maddie ask, so how are you best supporting parents right now? We're seeing parents in particular really struggle during this time, as to be expected. So how are you and how are your companies kind of working through that parenting challenge with all the schools being closed?
I'd say one of our values is our foundational values of the company is value the whole person. And part of that is that whole person is their whole family and all the responsibilities they happen to have. And so we talk a lot about self-care, and we make sure that, hey, if you have time, if you need time, take the time. And if you need resources, if you need someone to pick up groceries for you, if you need help in that way, do it. If anybody needs a particular resource, please ask. And so part of it is, we don't want parents to suffer in silence. We want them to be able to communicate openly what their needs are and to make it very, very clear from the top of the organization and all the way through that there's grace for what's happening right now. There's grace for the burdens that you're carrying. There's opportunities for you to ask for help and get help, even though someone may not be in your house taking care of your kid for you. But express your needs, give us an opportunity to care for you.
Yeah, I definitely follow along that. We're just really trying to promote flexibility and empathy, to just understand that there's a lot of craziness going on, and if we need to adjust meeting times, or if parents are switching off, helping the kids, things like that, that they're communicating that with their teams, and teams are being flexible there. We also started a remote work with kids Slack channel. So that's been a really fun outlet. I mean, I don't have children, and I'm still in the Slack channel because it's nice to see kind of the camaraderie that's coming out of it, the creativity, the resources that are being shared. So if there's an avenue for you to create that opportunity for people to connect and even vent a little bit, or share funny stories, I would definitely encourage you to set something like that up.
Yeah, along with what Whitney said, we give our employees a lot of flexibility. There are daily meetings around projects and such, but for the most part, we let people, family first, take the time they need to take care of themselves, their kids. They're very good about getting their work done. So, the work day, as I've seen it, and also with our employees, you're always at work because you're always at home. So just giving people the flexibility to do what they need to do for their family, they're very motivated to, get their work done again, and giving them the flexibility of what that work day looks like.
We've worked with quite a few companies that have asked us for resources they can provide their employees that have children at home. And so we've made sure that there's information and resources about the paid sick leave and the FMLA changes, so that if employees are struggling quite a bit with the stay-at-home, with the kids at home, which I have 2, and it extends your day. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We're also supporting companies, a lot of which have said, I think I need to create what you've done, Whitney, which is that Slack channel, that opportunity for us to connect as fellow parents who are, stay at home or in another company, so that we can share memes or crazy day stories or be there for each other. We've heard companies having, requiring the same amount of productivity, but that productivity can happen over a longer period. Get your work done. And then others that have said, yeah, I don't know how to manage that productivity when we know that we want to care for those individuals who have kids at home. So this is a question that I think everybody's challenged with, and I think some of the things you've mentioned are great. And then people that just can't manage it, there are outlets through the new legislations to allow companies with 50 or more to do other things. So just making sure those resources are available.
Okay, so the next question is, so, you know, as we move through this time, you know, are you looking at kind of starting to plan for normalcy again? And what does that process look like? How do you transition from this period we're in now with the stay-at-home orders back to a normal business environment?
For us, we're thinking the goal to get back to normal shouldn't really be the goal, because things are going to be different. And what we're trying to figure out is what is going to be different. What do we need to accept as different? What behaviors, you know, as a coach, that, you know, if you change a behavior every day for 30 days, it becomes a habit. And if 2 months our behaviors have changed, going back to normal is not going to be, we've set a new normal is what has happened. And so we're trying to think through, what does that look like? And to us, that's probably more important. We don't know when this is going to change. What this has impacted more than anything else is our hiring, because we are hiring. We're hiring software developers, and for the first time in our history, we're hiring people that we've never physically met. And we typically were not hiring remote software developers because building that culture internally is really important to us until we get to a size where it makes a lot of sense to do that. And we may hire our first fully remote software developer next week that will always be remote. And so that is a new normal for us. So I don't know what getting back to normal will look like, honestly. We're going to be a different company.
So I've spent, you know, much of my time as an economic developer trying to figure out what is that new normal, how are we going to measure that new normal, and how are we going to help industries transition back. And I think there's several stages. There's the safely reopening, so that stage where you probably still want to have some social distancing, and you're gonna see this push-pull of, you know, more people still wanting to work at home, or you know, this shift to the suburbs over the cities because of fear of transportation. So there's a lot of factors that will go into reopening because our society is changing and our work is changing. There's also going to be some questions. I've heard some already from tech industry companies asking about essential businesses versus non-essential when the stay-at-home order. How do we shift our product line maybe to meet the needs of some of the things that came out of COVID? So I don't know if there's going to be a return to the previous normal. There will be a new normal, and every company is going to have to engage in that shift based on the conditions that are happening. And just know there are support organizations out there. This is a great tool for sector partnerships as we move into this new normal. How can we support each other in figuring out what is it going to look like? What are some tools? What are the hiring going to look like? Are we going to have more people at home still, and so forth?
Corine, can I just ask a quick follow-up on that? Can you talk a little bit about what some of those support organizations might be, to give people an idea of where they might reach out to for assistance with their business in this time of uncertainty?
Yeah, so those that make up the back row of a sector partnership, as you know, the industry is at the center, but you have your educators, your economic development, your chambers. We're going to be there, and we're going to be on our focus, the chambers, the economic developers, the workforce agencies. We're all there to support businesses and to support the convening of businesses in this new role. One of the things that we're seeing as a shift in some chambers or economic developers is providing technical assistance in things like continuity plans, emergency preparedness, social distancing, how to add PPE into front-facing jobs, things like that. So that conversation's happening and those plans are happening. So we just want to make sure we tap the tech sector partnerships and the tech companies into those, so that as you're revising your transition back to open and then the future, how do we integrate some of the things we've learned into the job, into the businesses?
Yeah, and I think for us,
answer your question, Michael?
Thank you.
I think for us, the new norm, as Michael was saying, and everyone's related to what does that new norm look like. Our new norm is going to be based on understanding the new norm of our clients, because that'll impact how we work with them, what the relationship's like, where the work is done. And from an apprenticeship perspective, we had some goals that we wanted to do with our apprenticeship, and this is accelerating it a bit in terms of some virtual and online learning. How do we do mentoring? I think that is the $64,000 question. What is the new norm, and how do we know we've arrived at that new norm?
Okay, so I think I'd like to throw out some of the attendee questions to you guys. So we have a question from Corey, so he's asking, I'm going to paraphrase it, but he's asking, for somebody transitioning out of a coding boot camp, what tips do you have for somebody looking to set themselves apart during that tech job hunt with this COVID landscape the way it is?
Looking at it from the perspective of running an apprenticeship, Corey, I think the main thing is you've got to keep on learning and keep on coding, and ensure that you take that knowledge that you've learned in the boot camp, or you're continuing to learn from online tutorials, and build some small projects from it, right? And if you're trying to sell your skills without having any workplace learning, create some deliverables, leveraging the technologies that you've learned. That way you show a potential employer that, yeah, I've taken all these classes and everything else, but we can show them an end product that you've built, learning those technologies. That would, be great to have a portfolio as you go out looking for those new opportunities.
Yeah, I wrote in the chat here, it's affected our hiring of junior developers right now. We've decided to hire mids and seniors in our hiring process until we can have that face-to-face. So I would, and I'm sure other companies are doing the same. So I would say, like Chris said, build something, learn, create some deliverables. There's some students in the UK that many weeks ago created a quick website to calculate how long your toilet paper would last. And I think they've gotten millions and millions of hits on that website. Not complicated, great project. Be creative, hone your skills, connect with other developers online, and ask for help.
One thing too, Corey, is make sure that you create a learning journal. So as you're going through and out of your boot camp and learning things online, create a journal of what you learned, what you watched, what you did, because that can be a good, also good documentation to show a process of your learning along with the project.
And a GitHub account's a great place for that. So and do commits regularly in your GitHub account. Don't just build everything and then commit, but commit as you go, because hiring managers want to see how you think and how you got to where you are and the end result. So yeah,
that's great. It shows that activity. And also to Michael's point, as he said that Pairin, they're looking to hire mid and senior developers. Some of the hiring that's taking place in terms of with our apprentices, companies have scaled that back, not because of the skill set, but from the fact that how do they ramp somebody up on their company or their industry in a remote basis, and have delayed some of those hiring decisions and even those project decisions.
We've also moved to doing more take-home assignments these days. A lot of our coding exercises were done virtually or over the phone or in person. So we've shifted to do more take-home exercises. So I would say if you do get to that point, really try to go above and beyond on that, not just the bare minimum instructions that they're giving you. That'll certainly show the aptitude and the eagerness as well. Hands down, anybody that goes above and beyond typically moves on to the next stage for us. We like seeing that, especially right now when it seems like everyone has a little bit of additional time at home and a little less distractions in the evenings and things like that.
Okay, we had a question. This is for you, Whitney. Earlier, you mentioned a mindfulness toolkit or a mindfulness tool. Can you talk just a little bit about that? And is that a public tool or is that a private thing that you built? Is that something other people can have access to? Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So we kind of have three different parts of the mindfulness toolkit. We partner with an external company called Happify. And essentially what they do is they gamify mindfulness. So it's a lot of fun games to help just boost your energy, your positivity. And there's different tracks that you can go down. Healthgrades has had a lot of success with partnering with Happify. We've seen overall kind of enjoyment go up, 50% in some locations. And they have a really great opportunity to win prizes and things like that. We've had employees win cruises and large amounts of gift cards and stuff like that. So definitely that's been a really great tool for us. We also recently this year rolled out a partnership with Talkspace. And essentially what Talkspace is it is an online platform for individuals to be able to connect with licensed therapists. So we're giving all employees a free 90-day subscription to it. And that can start and stop at any point in time. So it gives them access to someone to talk to over the phone or through a video platform when they're not able to go out and speak with someone. Or just in between visits or things like that. So those have been two external tools that have been really great for us. And those were things that we had in place pre-COVID. So it's just been really wonderful that we've been able to provide those resources during this time. The third piece is just some internal things that our learning and development manager has come up with. So, he kind of scours the web and finds mindfulness videos. He's shared things of people just doing pottery and just kind of, zoning out for, 10, 15 minutes watching this. Like I mentioned, we started the meditation sessions. And all that is we don't have someone leading it. We just have someone that has access to the Headspace app. And we launch a Zoom and we push play on that. And, that guides us for our meditations. So there's a lot of free resources out there as well. We've had a resource library of people to commit where they're finding free gym memberships or free yoga classes or things like that, because we think the whole body really kind of generates mindfulness. So just giving people that outlet to submit those resources that they're finding goes into our toolkit.
All right, thanks so much. Let's see, we have a couple more. So, well, this isn't actually a question. This is really just a shout out. Spectralogic and Boulder just wanted to say that Corine and the Boulder Chamber have been really helpful to them navigating this challenge. And I think that is a testament for reaching out and leaning a little bit on some of those organizations that can help you get through these challenges and do some of that planning and connect you to the appropriate resources. So thank you for that comment. And then finally, is there a silver lining in any of this? Is that like in the way that the tech industry does business moving forward?
I think there is. Talking to, as we've all done, we're stuck at home talking to our network. I think companies who haven't had, a work from home policy will gauge the effectiveness of having their workforce remote at home. And I think there's some changes in terms of how companies operate, in terms of where their employees need to be. So just I've seen just the effectiveness of the communication, more direct, to the point, is going to have an impact. But I believe it'll be interesting to see what happens to the commercial real estate market after this.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, so we have just a couple minutes left. I wanted to ask, are there any kind of final closing thoughts you wanted to leave our audience with here about how the tech industry is handling this challenge with COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders? Is there any final thoughts you wanted to leave people with before we wrap this up?
I'll have one final thought here. Maybe it's not as specific as that, but for the first time in the history of mankind, the entire world, every single person in the world is experiencing the same thing. It's never happened. Even massive catastrophes that have happened in the world have been isolated or have been different viewpoints on it. But right now, everybody's experiencing the same thing. We have an opportunity just as mankind, not just the tech community, for empathy that has never existed before. Something that will connect us together for the rest of our lives, for everyone that is alive today. And if we can be intentional about connecting with what's happening in us, we have an opportunity to connect with every single person in the world about this for the rest of our lives.
I have 2 points, and one is that tech by nature is innovative, and what we're going to see coming out of this is a lot of problems that were not solved or could not be solved, and it'll be a great opportunity for innovation in the tech industry to help solve some of the issues that have come out of this, whether it be telemedicine or better communication or data privacy. Because there's a lot of uncertainties that are happening. There's a lot of things that we weren't prepared for. And I think that we're going to see some shifts in that area and opportunities for companies to develop that next innovation product that would have made our lives easier and less uncertain in the very beginning. And the second thing is, there are a lot of companies, including tech companies, that are struggling, that are wondering how they're going to continue to make payroll, how they're going to continue to, pay their rents and so forth if this goes much longer. And I would just say, continue to look at some of those resources, reach out to your partners in your community about things like the payroll protection plan, CARES. Those are available to companies under 500, and just take advantage of them if there's something you need. There are support systems out there, and make sure that you're looking at those to make yourself afloat during this time if it's hard.
Yeah, I'll mimic that. Just both Corine and Mike, we're in this together. I think we're going to come out a lot stronger, and we're going to see a lot of really great innovation. And if there's anything that you've heard me mention today that you're curious about or want more information, definitely feel free to reach out. You can reach me on LinkedIn, or my email is wbertram@healthgrades.com. So feel free.
Yeah, I would just say, we're in the tech sector. Technology is cool, but the people make the technology. And I think how companies treat their employees as people, as a family unit during this time, will have a lot to say about the true colors of those companies, and I think create a lot of loyalty, or in some cases, you may see people vacate their current employment just based on what they've seen. So I think the resiliency of our workforce, of the country, of the world, has been pretty amazing under this incredibly terrible pandemic that we're all dealing with, and it's really all about the people.
All right, well, it's 10:01, so I want to wrap this up because I bet other folks have other Zoom meetings and WebEx calls to get on. I think that's probably what we all have going on here at 10 o'clock. So this is the Tech Talent Denver, Tech Talent Boulder Tech During COVID-19 web panel. I want to say thanks to everybody who helped put this together. I want to say thanks to Corinne and Whitney and Chris and Michael. I think you've all given us a lot of great insight into what's going on with tech during this time. And I want to thank all of our participants who were able to get on today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Kelly. I think most of you will have our contact info, and we'll try and connect you with resources for any information that you guys need. Anyway, so I'd like to just say thanks again, and that concludes this panel. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.